Good afternoon, or perhaps good morning. Welcome. On behalf of Chief Executive Group, thank you for joining us for today's session, where we will be discussing a practical roadmap every mid-market CEO needs to grow at the pace of AI fuel change. I'm Jamie Tassa, Vice President of Events for Chief Executive Group, and I'm so pleased to be joined by Chris Happ, CEO of VirtuousAI, and Leo Tropeano, founder and CEO at Mugsy. Chris is a serial entrepreneur and seasoned technology leader, helping companies transform how they operate, scale, and win with data. He has developed the world's first business automation, intelligence, and outcomes platform for mid-market businesses, which we will learn a little bit more about today. And Leo, as founder of CEO of Mugsy, the men's clothing brand redefining comfort and style. His journey began over a decade ago when, frustrated by a failed trip to find jeans that both looked sharp and felt good. After years of research and countless prototypes, Mugsy launched its first pair of jeans, offering men the unheard of combination of style and sweatpants level comfort. But today, we're going to be learning about how Mugsy is leveraging AI in so many different ways in the back office, and it's just a great example for all of you listening in on practical things that you can do to leverage AI. Chris, Leo, great to have you both with us. Before we begin, two quick housekeeping items. We hope that you all will submit questions throughout the conversation, which we will answer towards the end of the session. You're going to do that by using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. Separately, if you do run into any technical issues, you can chat the Chief Executive Group's team using the chat function, and our team will be able to communicate with you directly there. And with that, I will turn it over to Chris and Leo.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Chris Happ. I'm the CEO of VirtuousAI. And today we're going to focus not on the hype that is AI that we've all heard about. It's going to be really more the physics of adopting it. And we're going to go through how Leo did this and walk through his exact roadmap and methodology on a real CEO who's sitting in your seat, who's done this, and I think is an industry leader. I'm joined by Leo. He, as Jamie said in the intro, took this amazing brand. And if nothing else comes out of this, get yourself a pair of Mugsy's. Awesome jeans, super comfortable. In fact, I'm wearing them now. But we want to go through not just the wins, but the scars and the process that implementing AI and being a leader in AI looks like in the mid-market. Let's just start with let's level set the playing field, put the conditions on the ground, what we're all facing. So we polled your peers. We did a poll that we co-sponsored with Chief Executive Group. And we looked at, and we got responses from more than 300 of you. This is a cross-section of everyone on this call, different verticals, to get what's actually happening in AI. And so I'm going to present that first, just to kind of level set, and then we'll talk about what that looks like in practicality. Not surprising, 98% of you see value in AI. It's over the fad stage. It's beyond that. There's some hype cycle here. And a lot of people are seeing the potential in different areas, in different use cases. However, and this is the big if, only 1 out of 12-ish of you have a company-wide strategy yet. Most people are still piloting and have sort of explored it. I think the feedback we get is a lot on the desktop, but haven't really implemented or thought about it yet. So 1 out of 12, here's the punchline, 1 out of 12 have a strategy. And I don't think a strategy necessarily means I fully deployed it. It means I have a plan and I sort of have a plan of action. And that's what we'll go through is, Leo, with you, how you thought about taking this from the 98% I see this value into I actually want to do this. Where people are focused right now is on efficiency. So most of you are doing sort of pilots in and around time savings, automation. About half of the people who've implemented are looking at how do we connect in our data to make better decisions. And then really where the holy grail here, unlocking new revenue streams, only about 20% are there. So this underscores most people are in the pilot stage and still kind of trying to figure this out or tactically dipping their toes in the water. So what are the key things holding you back? Number one, people, people and expertise. This is particularly acute in the mid-market where you're competing for talent with the Fortune 500, the tech companies themselves that are employing these people with AI skills. So it's very hard to get quality people. And even the people you have, this is a new skill set. So how do they learn and grow in this AI field area? And then a lot of you are also struggling with data and just integration of systems. All this amounts to what we refer to as the execution gap. You see value over here, but it's really hard to implement, and we haven't done it yet. And this is really where the rubber hits the road, and Leo, where I want to bring you in is talk about how do you close this execution gap. And what we've found in the pilot phase is that it's easy to fill the gap with all of these point solutions, these siloed pockets, because that's what's being thrown at you in reality is that every vendor now has an AI solution. There's consultants coming out, but that doesn't really build a strategy. You're really just automating more of the chaos and automating. You're getting quicker to silos and sort of building an exponential silo tax. So while that's the easy place to start, it doesn't actually result in a strategy. And so that's what I really want to bring you in, Leo, and get your opinion and your thoughts and take us through exactly what you did to move this from sort of a tactical execution and being stuck in the execution gap to moving this forward. So we'll walk through your process you went through, which we'll call walk, run, scale, which I think is really practical. And it's a methodology to get out of the I see value to this is actually going to be strategic, a force multiplier, a step function change for my business. So kind of want to just level set, lay the ground here of what your business looks like. It's fascinating. How'd you start it? Why'd you start it? This is always like the most interesting part of these. Did you grow up knowing I'm going to build a jeans company or, how did you get there?
Yeah, I can talk about the early stages of the journey quickly. Yeah, I'm a CPA by background. I was at Price Waterhouse for the first 5 years of my career. But while there, just men's jeans was a problem I was encountering and just thought they were super uncomfortable and got a hold of my wife's jeggings and they were super stretchy and soft. And it's like, well, why don't guys have anything like this? So that was kind of the first domino. And yeah, flash forward like 15 years later, here I am. But yeah, did you want me to talk to the screens, Chris, or just
Yeah,
sorry?
yeah. So as you've grown the business, then Leo, you obviously started like any good entrepreneur in the garage, and then you surpass probably even some of your wildest expectations or hopes, and all of a sudden it becomes not am I going to make it? It's can I scale this effectively? And the business ends up looking something like this, where you have, I think in your world there may be 14 to 20 different applications that are I'll call source systems of record. Important data lives in those, but maybe just talk about the reality of what it's like as the CEO trying to get information out of the company, just as a sort of a gut check. I think most people that will resonate with a lot of the audience. That's what we're hearing is that that's a critical area to sort of get figured out first.
Yep. Yeah, and to give more background on Mugsy to time with that. Yeah, so obviously the early days, just me in my apartment surrounded by stacks of denim, and we're a website only at that point, running our business on Shopify. Very simple business. I'm shipping everything myself. Everything's run on one platform. Flash forward a decade, now we have 9 stores, and we're also on Amazon, and our warehouse is in Columbus, Ohio, and has its own software, which is the top red one there with Ryder that you see. And as the business kind of evolved, you get more and more software plugins, and now it's to the point where you want to ask a simple question like, how many units did we sell yesterday? And I have to go to like 3 or 4 different places. Well, I got to see how many sold in stores, how many were on the website, what about Amazon, what about Nordstrom.com, all these things. And one, it's not an easy process, and two, it's not a trustworthy one. So even beyond just a simple question like what were sales yesterday, which was even difficult to get a trustworthy answer for starting out. Now you want something, even more complex of a question, like how about have inventory sell through on the SKU basis, and you'll get 5 different answers from all these different softwares. So that was kind of the initial frustration I was experiencing that led me down this path of AI is, man, I can't even get trustworthy data. And if I can't trust the data, how can I make a good decision? I'm kind of operating in the dark here now, which is kind of counterintuitive. You think like with all the technology, we'd get better information, but I found it to be the opposite because now I have my information spread out everywhere and I have all these different places to get it from, and none of them are talking.
Yeah. So that's perfect. So I think the logical solve that people go to, and this manifested in the survey results, the easy place to start is, well, just buy an off the shelf AI. I got all these vendors. I work with, in your case, Shopify. So there's probably something on the App Store. Why don't I just go with that? That's going to be now AI box checked. Maybe just talk about kind of how that went and why that didn't work in your guys' environment.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Around the time of having this epiphany, I start seeing ChatGPT, popping up on our credit card statements. So basically, all of my employees were subscribing and buying a more advanced plan. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not the only one thinking about this. But as we all know, ChatGPT doesn't plug into my business. They're just using it for, hey, help me, craft this email, or maybe in some cases, edit an image, that kind of thing.
Yep.
But then we kind of look for an AI, and you're right. Every one of those, if you go to the previous slide, every one of those has their own AI, and they're kind of, hey, let's jump on a call. I want to talk to you about the AI we're developing. But again, the big issue is they don't talk to each other. So it's like, okay, maybe the information within Shopify is now smarter and I can get a better answer, but I'm still going to get a different answer between all the different softwares. So we started this, I think, before kind of you and I had started talking, Chris. You
Yeah.
started kind of buying those AIs. So one in particular was on the marketing end. I won't name the company, but its whole promise was, hey, we're going to plug into everything marketing for you. And so now, at least when you go to marketing, maybe 5 of those, bubbles on the previous page are all connected. But then again, it's still not talking to the others. And even then, it wasn't working. I think I was telling you earlier, like one of the, even kind of well into a few months into using the software, we're asking it questions and it's saying, yeah, well, 85%, were this and 35% were that. Well, that doesn't even add up to 100. So it can't even do the basic stuff, right? If I can't ask it a basic question, like how to count to 100, then how am I going to really trust its data? So that was kind of our first test of AI, was kind of buying one of these off the shelves that said, hey, we're going to plug into all this stuff. And I found it, one, didn't work well at all. Two, maybe could do some things really well, better than, like, every once in a while it would wow us, and that'd be enough to keep us kind of on the line, But then we'd ask it some relatively basic question and it'd give an answer that was total nonsense. And so ultimately it just eroded our trust in it. And I went back to, okay, I don't think we can solve the problem that I'm setting out to like resolve by just buying all these different AIs and having all these plugins because inherently that's again they're not talking and that's the root of the problem.
Yeah. 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 So as you get to that realization and you realize, hey, I'm in this execution gap. This isn't all I'm doing is automating chaos. How do you pivot then? So now I think in your head, it seems logically you're moving to this. Okay, I need a strategy here. I need something more strategic. I can't, this tactical solve isn't going to work because that leads to, okay, if one sort of works here and I sort of have this other one, and then we have all these individual subscriptions, you get to this notion of like a corporate brain and a corporate strategy. How did you sort of come to that realization? You sort of answered that question, but as you start thinking about, well, now what is the way to flip the script here and solve this problem in a strategic way as opposed to sort of what's being offered in the market?
Right. So we kind of had that failure with that one software. And
Yeah.
when I was thinking back on why it failed, I think it's because you were kind of talking about walk, run, scale. Internally, we say crawl, walk, run. And
Yep.
so I went to, oh, we were trying to run immediately. I need to go back to crawling. And so what I think of it as like building a house, which is an analogy that or an analogy that I've said to you, Chris, before, but I was like, we were trying to build the attic before we even had the foundation. So first I need to go back and build the foundation now. And to me,
Yep.
again, what was the big problem? I mean, there's tons of problems in the business, right, that I'm trying to fix all the time. But the big one that was kind of starting all this was the data was inconsistent and none of our software was talking, right? And I couldn't even ask a basic question without getting like a, an untrustworthy answer or even just consistent one across the board. So to me, I went back and was like, all right, what's the foundation of the house? And to me, I know this is wording you don't like, Chris, but I was GPT for my business. I want an AI brain that's connected to everything that I could just ask it basic questions for. Again, like what were sales yesterday? How many units of this sold? You know, did you flag any potentially fraud orders? Did you see any of those come through? I don't need it to kind of provide value beyond just being a data machine that can kind of synthesize all this data from all these different sources and give it to me in like a plain text, like digestible way. And I figured if I could do that, then I've built the foundation for a house. I have an AI brain that's connected to everything, and I can start building, you know, the next level or adding on rooms for solving kind of particular problems from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Got it. So you've got this foundation, and so the strategy becomes walk, run, scale, crawl, walk, run, however you want to think about it. So you've got this foundation, and important to the foundation, I think, is having a goal of the foundation, or what are the types of questions that I want to answer or outcomes that I want to achieve. I think it's easy to get enamored with, well, I can load data, I can ingest the entire web, and now I've got this brain. But really, you guys focus then on, all right, let's build a foundation, but let's purpose build it towards an outcome. And in your guys' case, you chose inventory, and it'd be interesting just to hear you think about that. But let's purpose build the initial foundation towards this outcome. So we limit the scope and really build trust with the system that we're getting the right answers. But instead of 100 systems, we've got 12, 14 that we're connecting in that impact this sort of outcome. That way we can go through this process versus I'm just going to jump the scale. I need 100 systems in, and that just leads you to more of the chaos.
Right. Yeah. So it starts with, again, if I could build that foundation and then identify the next problem that I want to tackle. Is this,
Yeah.
you want to start talking about inventory and that kind of how we chose that as the
Yeah.
low-hanging fruit? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one. Um, Cool. Same slide. All right, cool. Yeah. So then once we kind of established that, and there's a cool story I had. I don't know if it's worth mentioning, but we got that running, right? The kind of data centric. And there's a cool example I know I told you once, Chris, was one day I got a call from our director of ops, and he said, "Hey, I don't know if you know this, but I discovered we have a customer who spent $20,000 with Mugsy, and it's in his lifetime. Like, in the last 10 years, or I think it was like 5 years. And I was like, well, that
Yeah.
can't be right. I don't even think we sell $20,000 worth of stuff, right? And we find out it is right. And then I have this kind of like light bulb, like, oh my God, like how many of these guys exist? Probably not a lot, right? But this guy spent a fortune on our brand. He's obviously a unicorn, but there's got to be a few more of them. And we've never even reached out to him. He's never come across our radar. So then I started talking to Virtuous and the AI and like, hey, tell me everyone who spent over $1,000 in their lifetime and bucket it out and all that stuff. And then suggest to me, what we could do to make them feel special and like the head of VIP um, kind of like experience with the brand. And the stuff it came back with was like so cool. It's like, hey, if someone spent $1,000, like send them, Garrett's popcorn, which is, known here in Chicago, and
Yeah.
just like small stuff. And then on the bigger side, it can. So I thought that was such a cool example of like this is immediately working.
Yeah.
The foundation has been built. But from there, the next question becomes, all right, well, what's the walking step, right? And the problem I identified, or that we all kind of identified, one of the bigger issues we have is inventory planning. We have, I mean, for jeans and pants intensive, there are, I think, like 39 different SKUs for every one like color of jeans. But when you think of, we have, maybe 10 different waist sizes and 4 different lengths.
Mhm.
Um, that becomes a huge problem when you're making hundreds of different kind of like colors, right? And now we have thousands of SKUs. But again, we're bootstrapped and we're a relatively small startup here, so every dollar counts. And it was becoming a huge issue of us trying to manage all those different SKUs as we grew, expanding the line, but cash is still strapped. Um, and yeah, we thought that if we could fix that issue, one, it's perfectly designed for AI because it's super data intensive as far as
Yeah.
like you pretty much need to track each SKU, like each down to a size levels, sell-through rate on a daily basis, which is just almost impossible for a human to do. In some instances, Excel was kind of freezing because it couldn't even handle all the data, right? So that's something AI is perfect for. Two, it's a potentially million, like seven-figure implication to our cash.
Yeah.
And three, if the AI can learn that part of the business, then it's really established, ingrained in everything Mugsy, and can pretty much take on any other problem we have, because inventory planning involves the forecast. It involves, yeah, like minute detail on a sales basis, like to SKU level. So it seemed like the low-hanging fruit for us where, maximum dollar potential savings, super data intensive, perfect for AI, and like helped kind of ingrain the AI into like every important aspect of the business so that we can then, all right, now the first floor is built. Now we can easily build the second and third floor based on that.
Yeah. Well, I love that the notion. So you inventory is incredible because, as you said, you're dealing with sales. You're dealing with multiple different sales systems. You're dealing with inventory, POs, 3PL. So
Even
so you,
location, like we
yeah,
have
yeah,
different stores, we have a warehouse, it's so that's another important like that marketing would have missed, whereas inventory planning kind of captures, oh, you have 9 retail locations and a website and Amazon and all this
yeah.
stuff. So yeah,
Well, and then as you're building the brain, it inherently you have 85, 90% of the key systems that your business is using to make decisions. And you've now linked those in and you've taught an AI about the interrelationships. A knowledge graph is the way we build it, but the interrelationships between those datas and systems. And so it's learning that interactivity between departments, if you will, and it's able to take your past data and see how decisions are made. So that simple example you gave, where it said, "Hey, it obviously knows you're based in Chicago," and said Garrett's popcorn for this. Like, it's really powerful. So by solving the inventory problem, the byproduct was this brain that had formed that is aware of your business, and you can say, "Hey, who's our top customer? What should I send them?" You can have those kind of back and forth, but we still solved a massive problem, which is to free up cash on the inventory side. But I love that as the strategy, which is we're not going to run right to this agentic world where agents are just running around. because they don't know anything about our business yet. And there's a lot of tribal knowledge that how do we get that into the brain and build that into the structure. So data plus context, and now we can start to run or scale or move to the next phases. So as we think about just kind of this single source of truth of data, and you and I have talked about it. Every CEO has a spreadsheet that sort of secretly runs the business with columns of data in different places, and it's pretty static. It's not very dynamic in the sense that you have to go pull data and update it. But as you get to this single source of truth, you're able to do the example you gave. You know, other amazing examples I know you've given are just around where you'll have a thought partner that is hyper aware of your business and the data, but you can ask and reason through sort of decisions and questions and perform analysis with. Um, I don't know if you have just other examples that are cool that you can do now that you have this single source of truth.
Yeah, actually, I thought of another one where the standard AI pre-Virtuous, that kind of first marketing one that we tested, failed, and was another reason why we kind of got onto this inventory model. Was we asked it like, hey, we want to send an email tomorrow. Then what's like a good email we can send? What's a good product we can promote to customers? And the thinking is like, hey, are there, you know, Fulton's is one of our jeans. I think that's what's depicted here, that the Fulton's
Yeah.
is a style or a colorway, right? Maybe there's like 300 people with Fulton's in their cart and they're just kind of waiting to check out. And if we sent an email offering 10% and we even targeted those people, boom, we get 300, or even it's a fraction, like 200 sales that we wouldn't have got otherwise. So we asked it those questions, and what we found is like it would again not know the location of inventory. It would just know the total that we have. And so again, if we have 100 units of this shirt, to the marketing kind of AI, it just sees 100 and it's like, okay, we can get 100 sales, right? That's great. But when you look at the locations, like, well, maybe those 100 are at stores, and then we can't
Yeah.
sell them online because we don't ship from stores yet. So that was another one where it's like, this can't work on a marketing basis because it's not, ingrained on like the inventory level.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
That's amazing.
yep.
Um,
And then this example here that you gave, do you want to talk specifically about that one?
yeah, this one's really cool too.
Yeah.
I could nerd out on this stuff all day, but
Yeah, right.
yeah.
So this is a cool one. So Black Friday, Cyber Monday, obviously that weekend is huge for us. Like we do about 10% of our sales for the year in those 4 days. This year we found that we were hitting a bit of a wall on Cyber Monday, and sales were coming in, less than they were the previous year. And usually we try to grow. We have pretty aggressive growth goals. So for some reason we hit a wall mid Cyber Monday. And so, I had the idea to go ask Violet or Virtuous, the AI, what's something we can do? And it kind of came up with this insight that like, well, we're seeing that a lot of other brands are pushing bigger percent discounts than you. And so maybe you could, I see a question there. Can I ask that next? Maybe you could kind of up the offer, instead of tipping at the bar with fives, tip with a 20. And so what we came up with was this idea that, okay, we're not willing to sell our whole website, put our whole website up at a 40% discount, but what if we did one style? And what if it was like a wanted style too? It's not like kind of the a forgotten or low inventory, undesirable one of our top fives. And so we did that. So Cyber Monday night, we launched 40% off, which was double the site-wide discount. And we're not a very salesy brand, promotional brand. We just do a 20% off sale once a year around Black Friday. So this is a big deal for us, and it kind of killed me to do this, but it was worth the test, and we kind of had to. But yeah, we offered 40% off this one style. And we found from the moment that email went live, which was around 6 p.m. through like midnight, sales were like, I think 100%, 200. They were twice as much as the whole day up to that point. And
Wow.
now Cyber Monday not only kind of met last year's Cyber Monday sales, but exceeded it. And I think it grew like 40% compared to the prior year. So yeah, the impact of that sale was tremendous. And then even beyond getting the idea from Virtuous, asking it this question, like, tell me why it worked. Was it profitable, right? I just offered 40% off one of my best-selling styles, and am I going to like run out of inventory? Did I just kind of trade, future sales for today's sales and all that stuff? And it broke it down so nicely, breaking to the point of showing like conversion rates and website traffic that we wouldn't have had. And here's what, I think, the Fultons would have sold, had you just not done the sale, and versus how many you actually sold and all that stuff. So yeah, just hugely valuable for as far as ideation, and then even just analysis looking back.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So we've got a couple
Chris and
questions.
Leo, we got a couple two follow-up questions real quick on that note. One of our attendees was asking about the external data sources that you're able to leverage, Leo, and you're able to see what your competitors are doing. Is there any other external data that the system is evaluating?
Sorry, I'm reading the question. So Betsy's question here is, does your system have the ability to understand what SKUs sell in each channel, at what price, and at what volume? And the answer is yes. And pre-Virtuous, the answer was no. It wasn't looking that granularly. So again, like I firmly believe that these kind of plug-in AIs aren't the answer. The benefit of AI is it's a data machine, right? And it's kind of counterintuitive to kind of get this genius brain and just focus its data on one source. So yeah, one of the major unlocks of using Virtuous. Am I able to see what other competitors are doing? This is one, Chris, that you actually brought to our attention that we never even thought to do. But like, let's say we're coming out with a new product that is something we've kind of never tested before. A lot of thought goes into where do we price it at? And Virtuous has the ability for us to say stuff like, hey, here's our brand, go to our website, find like brands, and then even here are brands we aspire to or look up to or view as competitors. You can kind of give it as much data or as little as you want. But one thing I've been impressed by is like, here's our brand, like Mugsy.com, check it out, find competitors. Do they have a product like this? And give me a chart of different price points. Something that used to be very manual and tedious, and yeah, Virtuous can do that in a heartbeat because it can, scour the whole web. I hope that answers your question, Betsy. But yeah, I think there are instances where we can still use it to see what is out there. I don't know about external data. I think maybe, Chris, you could speak to one of the other benefits that we view to Virtuous is that our data is all private and held on your servers, versus I'm always hesitant to ask like ChatGPT a question and even reveal to it that I'm asking from like on Mugsy's behalf, because we know that Sam Altman and ChatGPT are going to use that data kind of publicly and to train it. Maybe that's a good point for you to talk on a bit more, Chris. But that was a major selling point to me too, is I don't want to give my data and kind of insider info to ChatGPT because I know that it's using it to train, and could very well, like if one of my competitors is also using chat, there's no guarantee that it's keeping my data anonymous or confidential.
Yeah. Well said. That's always been a concern of mine, Leo, that once the cat is out of the bag, and your data is out there, these data hungry AI models want to train on it. So that's been a focal point of ours, is to run all of this privately. Because in essence, what you built here is a brain. So we built a system that is intelligent, not just about retail as a generic frontier AI model is, but we've now taught it by the data and the connections in the data, how your business operates, who's a competitor, what is a competitor, something as simple as you sell a style called beans. If you ask AI, what were sales of beans? Well, it's contextually aware now that beans are a pair of jeans, and that's a style for you guys, as opposed to, a food source, for example. So it now, this brain, it's always been important to us that it lives in a private, secure area, and that as you're building and growing that, you're not that knowledge isn't leaking out of your company. So I'm glad that came up because it is really important to us. As we think about sort of what happens, so you build this brain and this process, and the goal really was build trust. So you have these point solutions and it erodes trust with AI. I think one of the biggest things that we see where these fail is that um, the AI looks like a black box and sometimes magical and sometimes it's way off. And if part of the main exercise here in walk, run, scale is building trust and having a measurable outcome is a way to do that. And so in your guys' case, what we were able to achieve just around inventory planning and starting to present information to the team where we look at a different way of procuring inventory and then start to pair a person as we move from walk to run. We sort of built this trust. We pair a person with the AI where it's helping them. It's doing a lot of the heavy lifting. It's trying to figure this out, but it's presenting them and asking them for feedback, one, to get smarter, but also to get their sign off that this is in fact what we want to do. So an inventory, before we place the order, let's present a person with that choice and some of the decision making that went into it. So you're building not just trust in sort of that open-ended questioning, but building trust with the employees and the team as part of this process. How do you guys think about sort of that trust building and then just the importance, I guess, within the company of pairing people with the AI to make decisions, and then ultimately how that scales and sort of what that looks like with people as you roll this through your organization?
Yeah, I tend to be more on the skeptical side. So I don't know, the famous person who said trust but verify is always
Yeah,
something that I kind of live by. And that
yeah,
was immediately one of the problems that I encountered with that other kind of marketing AI that we ended up failing on.
yeah,
Was, I'm the only one verifying it. I think a lot of our employees were just kind of blindly trusting it. And then it's like, hey, even math, and you can't even add to 100. But yeah, in the case of inventory planning, I think your slide's not selling yourself enough here, by the way. So we have an expert kind of inventory planner, and they're freelance. They're they do this for a bunch of, almost like an agency.
yeah,
Um, and our kind of bar for them is 70% accuracy, and that's kind of industry standard,
yeah,
70%. What we found with Virtuous when we were kind of getting this up and running is 93% accuracy. So 23% increase. Even if you kind of scale it down a bit, 15, 20%, I mean, huge. If you think if we had $5 million of inventory and we were 20% better, it's seven figures of savings. That was my quick math. So huge. But even then, I still want to kind of prove it before I just kind of blindly go all in. Because on the flip side, if it's 20% wrong, maybe these like
yeah,
tests were good, but 6 months in, I'm blindly fully trusting AI and it's 20% wrong, I'm screwed. So the system we've developed is that freelancer is going to work in tandem with this as we roll it out, which we're rolling it out like this month. For a few months, and then after that, so it's still full-time pay, their current rate for a few months in tandem. And then after that, the plan is that we're going to reduce their hours by, 1/6 down to a sixth, I should say.
yep,
Um, and just be purely oversight and kind of almost like a reviewer before we kind of send out POs and rely on it fully for the foreseeable future. I mean, there's a world where a year from now we kind of get rid of them entirely if it's that proven. But yeah, when it comes to the trust side, it's been extremely trustworthy, but still on that walk, run scale, we still want to make sure that the data is entirely accurate. But with the real tests we've done, it's continually been in that 90%. And to kind of give people context of like, how do we know it's 90%? We can give it data up to like April 30th, let's say, and say, project the next 6 months of sales, and we know the actuals and we can compare it back. And then we can look back and look at our I keep calling them the expert, our inventory planners, reports that they were sending us last April, and we can compare them side by side to actuals. So it's a real test. It's not like like subjective or us just kind of grasping at straws. We could use real data and pair them against each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's interesting too, so the run phase, it's your data paired with AI creates this superpower. It because like you said, it's data. And so you guys weren't having to build any of the the run stage. Basically, the process for you guys is that you're going to validate it and build trust with it. But the system is because it's got your data connected and the context in the brain, you're now able to do that. So it's not a massive technical project. So as you think about kind of the final stages here, and what that looks like, so we move into a world where we have an inventory agent, a marketing agent, and they're starting to have some autonomy and talking about they can do this on their own. They've learned, they've paired with a person, and now they're starting to work together. How do you look a year from now, what does this look like? And that's where, we start to get to that scale. We're truly in the scale stage where we have these very intelligent agents that have been trained with your team and have learned about the business. What do you think a year from now looks like?
Yeah, my hope is that I kind of view our business as having three silos. There's like marketing, um, ops, and product.
Yep.
They're all very different, but they are all relying on the same data at the end of the day. So in a year, I'm hoping that we have the AI, like right now we're working on it, kind of integrating it with the product silo, right? But there's a world where even on the ops side, we have customers saying like, hey, I don't know, like this is out of stock, or we get a lot of CX requests from inbound tickets from customers saying, hey, when is this coming back? And Virtuous sees that and kind of takes that into account on the product side. So, and then maybe from the marketing end, it's saying, well, let's remember this. And when we do get that back in stock, let's remember to send an email. So to me, it's that kind of full integration a year from now. And again, like I saw the inventory planning as the lowest hanging fruit. It's like a great model to build out to build the
Yep.
foundation, or maybe the first floor or whatever. But a year
Yep.
from now, I'm hoping that the whole team, like across silos and functions of the business, are all talking to Virtuous, using it, and it's remembering and kind of taking that into account as it's giving answers. And that was inherently the issue I had with that kind of marketing AI was, what forecast is it using? Is that different than the forecasts that we're using on the inventory planning side, et cetera? Now it's all, centralized.
Exactly. Yeah. That's awesome. Um, so I'll just close here, and then I want to leave a couple minutes for questions that I see piling in, which is good. This AI topic always leads to a lot of questions. So as we think about kind of this process we go through, and what we've created that's different than others is a continuous learning model where you're building and enables you to start with an outcome or start smaller and not boil the ocean, but basically establish a learning model that learns more and more about your business and then starts to tackle these outcomes and works with people to solve the problem through this walk, run, scale approach. We call it a BAO, which stands for Business Automation, Intelligence, and Outcomes. But it's designed at the core to be different. It's not about a silo of information. And it's really about building a context aware engine for your business that's leveraging all the superpower of AI. So that's what we've implemented for the audience with Leo and at Mugsy, which is incredible to see the growth of this category because it's mixing the ability to automate, the ability to put AI, and really is focused on outcomes as opposed to the tech for the sake of tech. We'll tell customers this isn't a technology implementation. This is bringing in a new type of technology. So it really offers it's not about walking just through a tech implementation like we're used to. It's very much a process that we've built around it. here you can see our process, which is build the content or the context. Then we want to achieve that single source of truth. Once we have that, we're able to automate executional type steps. And then finally, as we've built trust with people and the information and the learnings of the AI, we're able to deploy agents to act on our behalf and go reason through different decisions, like Leo's example of the what's our discounting strategy on Cyber Monday. Perhaps there's even a couple agents that are both debating that and having a conversation. And that really becomes the scale sort of vision of where this goes with Abeo. We think of it just from a buying, from a CEO perspective. How do I buy this? Walk. I want to see where my money's going, or I want to see opportunities. As I start to run, I want to unlock the savings, be able to capture that savings that I saw and identified. And then finally, scale is about unlocking new revenue streams. And that's really the promise of AI that we're seeing. That's where I think people want to get when they say, you know, almost 100% see the value, but people are still missing on the strategy. Just a real life example, and then Jamie, I'm going to turn it over for you for questions. We do have, this was very focused because of Leo and wanting to go through his case study on retail. We do have a select case studies from other industries that are highly represented in this group that will be attached in the packet that comes out. Here's just a real-time example. A lot of times people ask, I want to see this real. So here's a just sort of example of what this may look like in a walk stage in the system, where you can ask a question, have a back and forth, and the system's interacting with you to get some answers. So Jamie, I'll pass it over to you then to throw some questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys. We've gotten several great follow-up questions. The first common question is, how long did it take you to implement the AI solution for inventory, gather your data, etc.? And what AI inroads were staff making in the meantime, as far as getting educated on it, testing it before it went live?
Chris, do you want to talk to timing? I could talk to the staff. I saw even someone asked a question about like, yeah, how did you get people on board?
Yeah.
Which we have a good example of. But did you want to speak to timing and
Yeah,
like the onboarding process? So.
Yeah, we look at it as a 90-day implementation into the where you'll be running. So we think it should take no more than 90 days. With the technology we've built, we're connected to over 5,000 different data sources. So oddly enough, contrary to the slide at the beginning where people say integration and data is one of their biggest challenges, that's a solved problem. It's about building the brain, building the contextual awareness, and that's where you need back and forth with the people that Leo, you could talk about.
Yeah, the people were tough. I think I see Cheryl's question here. What's it been like? Have you gotten pushback from employees? And yeah, we say, what's the saying we have? There's always a Ryan. No offense to any Ryans, but we had a Ryan on our team who was really against, this, and on the marketing side, they wanted to use that marketing AI that I've mentioned several times because it came from a software that they've been using for years. And I think to me it was a good example of like, everyone's saying that, oh, we've developed AI, but they're just kind of cheating and taking a shortcut to being like, oh, everyone needs to have it, but is it any good, right? And so overall, it's been tough in a lot of ways to get on board because a lot of people are afraid of AI or they think it's going to replace their jobs, so they're inherently kind of like anti-teaching it the best because they think it's going to replace them. I still maintain that AI is going to be a tool and will help us be more efficient, and it's not going to just all out replace us, at least anything beyond menial tasks. But then even beyond that, they might have their kind of preferred partner. But ultimately, as a CEO, I'm the visionary. That's something you find is tough. A lot of kind of employees, especially lower level, they kind of lack the overall vision. And so getting the team to buy in on this is what it's going to look like, that what's this my use case for Virtuous a year from now, getting them to buy in on that was really important. And you need to do it from day one. Otherwise, in the case of our Ryan, you're going to go down a path and they're never going to be fully on board and it won't work. And then you'll have to shift or in your eyes, you might be, well, this failed and I'm out. But yeah, I think super important to get your team in on the vision from day one.
Excellent. Okay, Chris, this is a question for you. What specific large language model or models or generative AI models power Bayo's reasoning and natural language components? Are they proprietary, licensed, or open weights?
We use a mixture. As I mentioned, or Leo brought up, we run privately. So we use a mixture of experts. So when we have private questions, those will run on private models. Machine learning models are formed that may help predict inventory or sales, and those run privately. But we do leverage for more open-ended questions or maybe some web research. We'll use all the leading models, whether it's Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, OpenAI. But we're constantly monitoring that and constantly putting the right model in place for the right task at hand.
Okay. So Leo shared a lot around how AI has helped scale the business. Are there any other concrete examples, Chris, maybe you can share from quick touch points on some other clients, B2B, maybe perhaps, where you're seeing AI scale a business in terms of margin, speed, or market expansion?
Yeah, it's a great question. We have customers who are optimizing processes. So taking labor-intensive processes. One example would be a customer who plans to take 800 different assets that they perform financial calculations for each month and moving that from a massive manual process into an AI-driven process where the agents learn how to do that and create scale. So massive cost unlock there and efficiency unlock through that walk, run, scale. We have several customers working on better pricing to achieve outcomes. So if I'm a hospitality and I want to be at a certain occupancy rate, pull information from the web, from competitors, and then put that into pricing analytics so I can achieve the outcomes I want. We have customers working on sort of the interplay between customer acquisition, cost of goods sold, and lifetime value, and trying to optimize agents between those three. And that sort of generically encompasses anybody on this call. Another example I think relevant for this group is around manufacturing. Not surprisingly, their inventory is quite important. So better predictive maintenance and inventory management are unlocking not only cost savings, but top line growth opportunities.
So we just have a couple minutes. I guess maybe I'll ask each of you, where do you see what's the most common misstep you think people make, or Leo, hindsight's always 2020. If there's anything you might have done differently to make the process smoother, more efficient, or
Yeah, I go back to the people, getting everyone who needs to be involved on board with the vision from day one. So that was kind of our big misstep was, okay, we decided that external software didn't work. Let's build our own model and let's build our own marketing one. But ultimately, if like the marketing team's not on board and they're kind of have a bit of a chip on their shoulder because their software lost, they're kind of going against you. So I thought that was, if I could go back, I would have ensured adoption from day one, team wide, and maybe really nailed home the vision for it. I don't know if I'd explained that well enough to the team to get them fully on board, and we had that pushback. And man, it's frustrating when you're like a month or two into building something so cool. You see the vision for it, but they can't, and it's just yeah, nothing worse. That'd be my advice.
Great one. Chris.
Yeah, and then Leo, I'd add, I think people look at this as in an X and Y dimension, like what's the cost, what's the benefits, and they miss the time dimension. So there's another dimension. And so what's the cost of not starting? So we can try to reason out this perfect strategy in a fast-paced world, but how do you think about, I mean, why are you one of the 7%? Why did you say, I'm going to do this and figure this out? Like, what did you think were the risks of that?
Yeah, I think the example I give is you think of the internet in the 90s, I'm deathly afraid of being left behind and then replaced. A little harder for an apparel company, but in a lot of ways, we're a technology company, being that we're e-com and all that, right? So our technology is so important. But yeah, if you were in the 90s and you didn't invest in the internet and you just kind of looked at it and said, I'm going to be the 2% that really doesn't believe it, or the 93% that is unwilling to dip their toes, your Borders or Blockbuster, and at the least, I think we know that AI is not going anywhere. I mean, even the quote that sticks out to me that blows my mind is Elon when he says that people won't even remember Tesla for making cars. Like that's how insane Grok has become and the robotic stuff they're doing. So we know it's not going anywhere. I don't think it's going to replace all of us. I'm not a doomsdayer like that, but we know it's going to be an important part of every business. And you can fight it as much as you want and become boarders, or you can be an early adopter and hopefully get some competitive advantages and outpace your competitors. Might be an aggressive mentality, but I mean, it is essentially sport, right? And I want to make sure that we have the best tools, give us the best data, make us the most efficient, and be ahead of the curve as opposed to lagging.
Awesome. Well, great way to end it. Unfortunately, we're out of time. We had a couple people ask about slides. We will share the slides and recording if you missed any of it tomorrow. We'll also share the Virtuous AI team's contact information if you have any specific questions related to your business. And otherwise, Leo and Chris, thank you so much for your time today. And thank you to everyone who listened in. And we will see you online or in person, hopefully again soon.
Cool.
Thanks, Jamie. Yeah, if
Thanks
any
all.
people are interested, you can click on our website and book a workshop with us where we'll go through and whiteboard the walk, run, scale approach. So appreciate you having us, and thanks, Leo, for joining too.
Yeah, hope it was insightful. Thanks.
Thanks.